Wow, this right here is just pure fire. Brandon Turner talks about the four types of entrepreneurs and the different levels and what each one looks like. Check it out.
Most people, when they start anything new, any kind of business, they start at what I call the DIY level. I can do it myself. Like when I got into real estate, I did my own painting. I found my own deals. I did everything myself. There's nothing wrong with DIY, but that's what people do. If you wanted it today, let's say you were going to go start a business and the business was door-to-door selling of vacuum cleaners. You just believe that vacuums are the future and door-to-door selling vacuums are a big deal. A DIY mindset person, and this is most people in the world because most people are employees. And what do employees do? They do the things. They're the DIYers of their company. Right? Yeah, they're the front line. So they take the knowledge of their job and they go apply it to their entrepreneurship thing or whatever. So they're gonna go door to door and haul that vacuum door to door, and they're gonna go sell that vacuum. The next level, though, that people then sometimes move up to, not always, and sometimes people start, is what I call the project manager level. So we have DIY as the first one. Second one is project manager. A project manager is somebody who like grabs another person to go do the actual task for them. So for example, hey, buddy from college, come over here and go door to door and sell this vacuum. I'll line up the appointments for you. I'll take care of all this stuff. It's just kind of us figuring it out, but you're the one actually doing it. So I'll give an example in the real estate space. I hired my mother-in-law at one point to answer phone calls. It was still I was still doing everything, but I was like, I'm tired of answering phone calls from tenants. So Rachel, you handle all tenant interactions and I don't want to do it anymore. I'll pay you $500 a month. Perfect. That's me being a project manager, right? Or if you're like a house flipper, you might start subbing out a bunch of hire a bunch of contractors. You make sure they're doing their job, but you're really like in charge. Like you're there and like when they don't show up, you're over there painting the wall because they didn't show up. Next, I call these are mindsets, I guess, mindset levels. And the next one I call the COO, like Chief Operating Officer. So what does a COO of a company do? They typically establish a team. Like there's a team and there's like a hierarchy. There's employees. There's an HR manager. There's probably a director. Like they build a team. So now door-to-door salesman, this is how, now you might move up in your door-to-door salesman company to build the team to get the COO level, or if you were a COO mindset level at another career or another job, you might come in and right away from day one do that. Example, you were a COO here, so now you're going to go start a vacuum company. The first thing you do is you go hire an HR person, you hire a director of the sales, you hire 3 salesmen, and you hire a bookkeeper, right? And then you rent a building, you put them all in there, and then you're just meeting with them every week. And you run, like from day one, you never even touch a vacuum cleaner. You are the COO of that company. You show up to work every day, 9 to 5, and you run a very good company. Nothing wrong with COO level. All these levels are fine. There's nothing wrong with any of them. The fourth level, though, is something, and this is where it answers your question.
Oh,
is
intrigued. Yeah, I can't believe
it. I call it the architect level. So the architect, and not so much the architect, I was like designing buildings, but more of the architect from like the Matrix. If you remember the Matrix, the architect was like the one that like designed the whole thing. Like the architect is like, this is what I want to have happen. And it just happens. Some examples of great architects in the world would be like Richard Branson. Richard Branson owns 150 some companies, or that, I'm sure that fluctuates all the time. Like he doesn't meet every week with his director of operations of his random XYZ company that, he just like says, I want this done, and it gets done. Now, another great example of an architect, David Osborne. Right now, it's no coincidence that David has learned a lot, from Richard Branson, because that's just what people do. But another great example is David is an architect. He has like the ideas, like, I think a podcast would be great, and he goes and buys a podcast, or he's like, hey, I think this company would be cool. He might go buy that company, or he'll go and hire a CEO or a COO to go and build that company. You see, like that's an architect. An architect doesn't do a whole lot of anything other than they at a very, very high level. So let me pull this all together. So you got DIY, you have a project manager level, you have a COO level, and you have this like architect or visionary, some people might call it, like this person that just like sees it and gets it and makes it happen. Now, I said this before, and I'll say it again. No level is bad. There's nothing wrong with any of the levels. However, every level has a limit. Like at how high you can go. You will never become a multimillionaire, like, $10, $20, $50 million being a DIYer selling vacuum cleaners. You just cannot go door to door that much, right? I don't even know if you can do it being a project manager. Maybe being a COO, you maybe can. But the higher up mindset level you go, the less you work and the more money you make.